Did you know that nearly 70% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings? Shocking, right? With inflation rising and living costs soaring, that little cushion won't get you far. If you're relying solely on a savings plan to build your future, you might be in for a rude awakening. Think about this. Money sitting in a traditional savings account earns a measly 0.06% interest on average. Meanwhile, inflation has been averaging around 3% to 4% in recent years. That means every year your money loses value. In simple terms, keeping cash in a savings account is like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in it. So, what's the answer? In this video, we'll dive into powerful strategies that go beyond saving. You'll learn how the wealthy leverage their money, how to make your emergency fund work harder, and why cash flow is the true key to financial freedom. Are you ready to break free from the traditional savings trap? Let's explore how to transform your financial future, step by step. Chapter 1. The Hidden Truth. Why savings alone will keep you broke. We've all been told to save money, right? Put away 10% of your income. Build an emergency fund. Save for a rainy day. But let's be honest, is your savings plan really working for you? The reality is that saving alone is unlikely to build wealth, and in fact, it might be holding you back. According to a recent survey by Bankrate, only 39% of Americans can cover a $1,000 emergency from their savings. That's shocking, but it tells us something crucial. Savings in isolation isn't enough. Here's the problem with savings. It loses value over time. Inflation, which averaged 3.8% in 2022, erodes the purchasing power of your money sitting in a savings account. If you're saving your money in a typical bank account earning less than 1% interest, you're actually losing money in real terms every year. That's the harsh truth. Take this example. If you saved $10,000 today and inflation stayed at 3% in 20 years, that money would only be worth about $5,500 in today's purchasing power. It's like stuffing your cash under a mattress. You might feel secure, but it's quietly slipping away. So what's the solution? The key is to shift your mindset from saving to building wealth. Instead of letting your money stagnate, you should make it work for you. In the next chapters, we'll explore how to do that by embracing strategies that go beyond the simple act of saving. Because savings alone, it's not going to get you to financial freedom. Chapter 2. The Opportunity Cost Trap, Your Money's Secret Enemy. Have you ever heard of the term opportunity cost? It's the value of what you give up when you make a choice. In the case of saving, the opportunity cost is all the money you could have earned if you'd invested or used it differently. By parking money in a low-yield account, you're missing out on growth. Let's put it into perspective. If you had invested $10,000 in the stock market 20 years ago, with the S&P 500 averaging around 10% annual returns, that money could now be worth around $67,000. Compare that to the same $10,000 sitting in a savings account, barely earning enough interest to buy a few coffees. That's a huge gap, and it's all due to opportunity cost. In the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, he emphasizes, the rich don't work for money, they make money work for them. This is the mindset shift we need to embrace. Rather than focusing solely on saving, we should ask, how can I maximize the return on this money? Consider this. If you have $10,000, would you rather have it sit in a savings account earning 0.5%, or use it to invest in something that could grow 5%, 7%, or even 10% annually? Even small differences in returns can lead to significant gains over time. That's how the wealthy think. They don't let their money sit idle. Of course, this doesn't mean throwing all your savings into risky investments. It's about being strategic and seeking out opportunities that balance risk and return. The important point is, you can't let fear of losing money keep you trapped in the opportunity cost cycle. Chapter 3. The Wealth Mind Shift. From hoarder to investor. Many of us are savers by default. We were taught to save since we were kids, but few of us were taught how to invest. The truth is, saving is safe, but it's not going to get you far in today's world. To build wealth, you need to shift your mindset from being a hoarder of cash to being an investor. Let's talk facts. According to Fidelity, the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. None of those streams involve a basic savings account. What they understand is that money doesn't grow just because you stash it away. It grows when you put it into assets that generate income or appreciate in value over time. What's an asset? It could be stocks, real estate, a business, or even intellectual property. Kiyosaki calls assets things that put money in your pocket. The key to building wealth is investing in these assets and, crucially, not being afraid to take calculated risks. A great example is Warren Buffett, who famously said, "Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing." If you take time to learn about investing, it stops being risky. You'll see it as a way to grow your wealth steadily over time. And that's where the magic happens. As your investments grow, so does your freedom. Here's another thing to consider: compound interest. Albert Einstein once called it the eighth wonder of the world. The idea is simple. When you earn interest on your investment, and then you earn interest on that interest, your money starts growing faster than you ever imagined. The earlier you start, the more powerful it becomes. Shifting from saving to investing doesn't require a ton of money either. With platforms like Acorns or Robinhood, you can start with as little as $5. The point is to start somewhere. Don't just save. Invest in yourself and your future. Your financial freedom depends on it. If you're finding this information valuable, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Join us as we dive deeper into the world of financial freedom. Chapter 4. How the wealthy really save. Leverage, not stagnation. The wealthy don't save the way most people do. Instead of letting their money sit and collect dust, they leverage it. Leverage means using borrowed money or other people's resources to increase the potential return on investment. While it sounds risky, it's a powerful strategy if done correctly. Take real estate, for example. Most wealthy people don't pay for properties in full. Instead, they use mortgages to buy them. This lets them control a large asset with just a fraction of the money down. Over time, as property values rise, they make a profit far greater than if they had just saved the cash. According to a report by the National Association of Realtors, home prices increased by an average of 14.6% in 2021 alone. If you leveraged a mortgage to buy property, you could see massive returns on just a small down payment. This is where the rich play a different game. They use debt strategically. In the book The Millionaire Next Door, Thomas Stanley notes that many millionaires use debt to their advantage while avoiding consumer debt. They don't max out credit cards on things that don't appreciate. Instead, they use loans to buy appreciating assets like real estate or businesses. Here's another example. If you borrow $50,000 to invest in a business or stock portfolio that earns 10%, and the interest rate on the loan is 5%, you're pocketing the difference. That's smart leverage. The point is, while most people save for big purchases, the wealthy borrow and invest. The key is to be intentional about it. Not all debt is bad debt, and the wealthy know how to use good debt to build wealth. That's how they keep growing their assets and income without relying on a simple savings plan. Chapter 5. Savings to Zero. Why your emergency fund should work harder. Everyone knows the importance of an emergency fund, but here's something most people don't think about. Your emergency fund can do more than just sit in a savings account. If you leave it there, you're missing out on growth. In fact, some experts argue that having an emergency fund that isn't working for you is a wasted opportunity. Let's break it down. According to CNBC, the average savings account interest rate in the US is around 0.06%. That's barely anything. Meanwhile, inflation in 2023 was over 4%. So the money you're setting aside for emergencies is actually shrinking in value each year. The solution? Put that emergency fund to work. A smart strategy is to move part of your emergency fund into a high-yield savings account or a money market fund. These options can offer interest rates as high as 5% in some cases, depending on market conditions. That's not a huge return, but it's enough to protect your money from inflation, and it's still liquid enough for emergencies. Another option is to invest a portion of your emergency fund in low-risk assets like short-term bonds or certificates of deposit, CDs. These won't earn massive returns, but they're safer than the stock market and can give you a bit more growth than a traditional savings account. In his book, The Barefoot Investor, Scott Pape suggests splitting your emergency fund into buckets. Keep a portion easily accessible for immediate needs, but invest the rest in safe, low-risk options. This way, you'll get the best of both worlds, safety and growth. It's important to remember, your emergency fund doesn't have to sit idle. With the right strategy, you can make sure it's there when you need it and growing when you don't. If you enjoyed this journey towards financial freedom, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's continue exploring how to create wealth together.